Your soulmate needs to talk to you immediately. Something big just happened. Don't skip. Listen carefully. The morning began like every other morning. The first rays of sunlight slipped quietly through the curtains. A gentle breeze drifted through the open window carrying the scent of rain-soaked earth and blooming flowers. Birds welcomed the sunrise with cheerful songs. Neighbors greeted one another as they stepped outside. Children laughed on their way to school. The world seemed completely ordinary. Nothing hinted that this would become one of the most meaningful days of someone's life. Yet the greatest turning points rarely arrive with loud announcements. They often begin with a quiet thought that refuses to disappear. Because your heart needs this right now, because life often changes through quiet moments of reflection rather than dramatic events. That morning, your soulmate woke earlier than usual. Instead of immediately reaching for their phone, they sat beside the window with a warm cup of coffee. They watched the neighborhood slowly awaken. A father patiently helped his daughter tie her shoes. An elderly woman carefully watered flowers growing beside her porch. A delivery driver smiled while greeting a stranger. Tiny moments. Simple moments. Yet somehow every ordinary scene felt unusually meaningful. For reasons they couldn't fully explain, their heart felt different. Not anxious. Not excited. Simply thoughtful. Because your heart needs this right now, because some of the most important changes begin long before we understand why they matter. For weeks they had been carrying something inside that they couldn't ignore any longer. It wasn't a secret. It wasn't anger. It wasn't disappointment. It was a growing realization. They had spent too much time believing that difficult conversations should be delayed until the perfect moment. But perfect moments rarely arrive. Instead, opportunities quietly pass by while fear keeps saying, "Tomorrow." That word had become familiar. Tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll explain. Tomorrow I'll apologize. Tomorrow I'll express gratitude. Tomorrow I'll ask the question I've been avoiding. Yet tomorrow always seemed to move one day further away. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful relationships are strengthened by conversations we choose to have today. After breakfast, they picked up an old notebook resting on the kitchen table. Its pages contained months of reflections. Some entries were filled with hope. Others with uncertainty. Several pages contained questions they still couldn't answer. Today they turned to a blank page. The pen rested silently above the paper. After several moments they finally wrote, "Something important has happened." Then they stopped. Reading those words felt strange. Nothing dramatic had occurred. No mysterious message had arrived. No unexpected visitor had appeared. So why did it feel true? Slowly another sentence appeared. "The important thing isn't something outside me. It's something changing inside me." Those words lingered. Because your heart needs this right now, because the greatest changes often happen inside the heart before they become visible to anyone else. Later that morning they decided to take a long walk through their favorite park. The path wound gently beneath towering oak trees. Soft sunlight filtered through the leaves. A peaceful lake reflected bright white clouds drifting across a blue sky. Families gathered beneath the shade. Children chased butterflies across the grass. Everything invited them to slow down. They found the same wooden bench where they had often come to think. Instead of searching for answers, they simply watched life unfold around them. Because your heart needs this right now, because slowing down often allows wisdom to quietly catch up with us. Nearby, a young boy struggled to assemble a small model airplane with his grandfather. Every few minutes another piece fell apart. The boy sighed with frustration. "I keep getting it wrong," he whispered. His grandfather smiled kindly. "You're not getting it wrong. You're learning what works. Every attempt teaches something." Those simple words echoed through your soulmate's heart. How often had they mistaken difficult seasons for failure? Perhaps they had simply been learning. Learning patience. Learning empathy. Learning honesty. Learning how meaningful relationships actually grow. Because your heart needs this right now, because every difficult season can become a lesson when we remain willing to learn. The afternoon unfolded quietly. An elderly gardener carefully trimmed rose bushes. Nearby, two strangers helped someone gather papers scattered by the wind. A young couple laughed while sharing lunch beneath a tree. None of these moments were extraordinary. Yet together they painted a beautiful picture. Relationships are built through ordinary acts of kindness repeated consistently. A smile. A thoughtful question. A patient answer. A sincere apology. An unexpected thank you. Small moments become lasting memories. Because your heart needs this right now, because trust is built through everyday acts of care. As they continued walking around the lake, they noticed a woman sitting alone with a journal. She occasionally smiled while writing, then paused to watch the water. Curious, your soulmate greeted her politely. After a brief conversation, she shared something simple. "I've learned that waiting for perfect timing kept me from saying many things that mattered. Now I simply choose kindness whenever I have the opportunity." Those words settled deeply. Kindness doesn't require perfect circumstances. Neither does honesty. Because your heart needs this right now, because opportunities to encourage someone should never be taken for granted. Returning to the bench beneath the old oak tree, they opened the notebook once more. This time the words flowed more easily. "I've spent too much time waiting. Waiting to feel brave. Waiting to feel certain. Waiting for perfect timing. Today I realized something. Courage rarely arrives before action. It grows while we're taking the first step." Reading those words brought unexpected peace. For the first time, they no longer felt trapped between fear and hope. They had chosen a direction. Because your heart needs this right now, because courage grows stronger every time we choose honesty over hesitation. The afternoon slowly became evening. Golden sunlight stretched across the peaceful lake. Families packed picnic blankets. Children waved goodbye to new friends. The breeze became cooler. The park gradually grew quieter. Sitting beneath the oak tree, they reflected on the dramatic title of this story. Your soulmate needs to talk to you immediately. Something big just happened? A gentle smile appeared. The big thing wasn't an emergency. It wasn't a mysterious sign. It wasn't a hidden message. The biggest thing that happened was a quiet decision. Someone had finally decided that fear would no longer control important conversations. Someone had chosen honesty instead of silence. Someone had decided to appreciate people while there was still time. That realization changed everything. Because your heart needs this right now, because the most meaningful breakthroughs often begin with one courageous decision. As darkness gently settled across the sky, they returned home. The room felt peaceful. Outside, stars slowly appeared one by one. They opened the notebook one final time before bed and carefully wrote, "Tomorrow I will stop assuming people know how much they matter. Tomorrow I will express gratitude freely. Tomorrow I will ask questions before making assumptions. Tomorrow I will choose patience over pride. Tomorrow I will let kindness guide every conversation." They paused before adding one final reflection. The biggest event wasn't something that happened to me today. It was the moment I realized that healthy relationships are strengthened through honesty, empathy, forgiveness, gratitude, and everyday acts of kindness. That quiet realization became the beginning of a brand new chapter. They gently closed the notebook. The room became still. Tomorrow remained unwritten. New conversations would come. New opportunities would appear. New lessons would quietly unfold. And for the first time in a very long while, they no longer feared what tomorrow might bring. They were ready to meet it with courage, humility, compassion, and hope. Don't skip. Listen carefully. Author's note: this is a fictional, inspirational story written for entertainment and reflection. It does not claim that a real soulmate is trying to contact you or that these events are happening in real life. It encourages honest communication, emotional growth, forgiveness, gratitude, and hope. And listen to this. The morning after that quiet realization arrived with an unusual sense of peace. The first rays of sunlight stretched across the room. A gentle breeze carried the scent of fresh rain through the open window. Birds welcomed another ordinary day with cheerful songs. Outside, neighbors exchanged friendly greetings. A baker arranged warm loaves of bread in the shop window. Children hurried toward school, laughing as they walked together. Everything looked exactly the same as it had the day before. Yet something inside had quietly changed. The heart that had spent so much time waiting for certainty had finally become willing to embrace honesty. Because your heart needs this right now, because lasting change begins when courage becomes stronger than fear. As they prepared breakfast, silence filled the room. Not the uncomfortable silence they once feared. A peaceful silence. The kind that arrives after difficult truths are finally acknowledged. For weeks they had believed that waiting would somehow solve everything. Waiting for the perfect words. Waiting for perfect confidence. Waiting for perfect timing. Now they realized something surprising. Perfect timing rarely announces itself. Instead, meaningful moments are created whenever someone chooses kindness over hesitation. Because your heart needs this right now, because sincere conversations often begin with one small act of courage. After breakfast, they picked up the familiar notebook from the kitchen table. The pages had become a quiet record of their journey. Some pages held unanswered questions. Others contained moments of gratitude. Several were filled with promises they hoped to keep. Today they opened to a fresh page. Without hesitation, they wrote, "Today I choose honesty over uncertainty. Today I choose understanding over assumptions. Today I choose to listen more carefully than ever before." Reading those words filled them with unexpected confidence. Not because every problem had disappeared, but because they finally understood which direction they wanted to walk. Because your heart needs this right now, because knowing your values makes difficult decisions easier. Later that morning they returned to the familiar park. The old oak trees stretched proudly toward the bright blue sky. Soft sunlight filtered through the branches. The peaceful lake reflected white clouds drifting overhead. Children laughed while chasing butterflies. Friends shared coffee beneath shaded benches. Families spread blankets across the grass. Everything felt wonderfully ordinary. Yet every ordinary moment carried quiet wisdom. Because your heart needs this right now, because life's greatest lessons are often hidden inside everyday moments. Finding the familiar wooden bench beneath the largest oak tree, they sat quietly. For several minutes they simply watched the lake. Gentle ripples spread across the water before fading back into stillness. Watching those ripples reminded them of conversations. One kind sentence can encourage someone for years. One thoughtful apology can begin healing. One patient response can prevent unnecessary misunderstanding. Words matter. Silence matters. Timing matters. But kindness matters most. Because your heart needs this right now, because relationships are shaped one conversation at a time. Nearby, a grandfather helped his young granddaughter assemble a colorful puzzle. Whenever she became frustrated, he gently smiled. "Don't worry about finishing quickly," he said. "Take time to understand each piece." Your soulmate couldn't stop thinking about those words. Perhaps relationships resemble puzzles more than problems. People aren't solved by rushing. They are understood through patience, listening, curiosity, compassion. Because your heart needs this right now, because understanding grows when we choose patience instead of assumptions. As the morning became afternoon, they wandered toward a quiet flower garden inside the park. An elderly gardener carefully watered rows of blooming roses. Some flowers stood fully open beneath the sunlight. Others remained tightly closed buds. The gardener treated each one with equal care. Curious, your soulmate asked, "How do you know they'll bloom?" The gardener smiled warmly. "I don't force them," he replied. "I simply care for them consistently." Those simple words stayed with them. Healthy relationships aren't forced. Trust isn't demanded. Understanding isn't rushed. They grow through steady acts of honesty, respect, patience, and kindness. Because your heart needs this right now, because lasting relationships flourish through consistent care. The afternoon continued quietly. Nearby, two strangers helped an elderly man gather groceries after one of his bags broke. No one asked for recognition. No one expected praise. They simply noticed someone who needed help. Watching that simple act reminded your soulmate that compassion often appears without making any noise. The smallest acts frequently leave the deepest impressions. Because your heart needs this right now, because kindness has a quiet power that lasts long after the moment passes. Returning to the bench beneath the oak tree, they opened the notebook again. This time the words came naturally. I've been waiting for certainty. But perhaps certainty isn't required. Perhaps sincerity is enough. I don't need perfect words. I simply need an honest heart. Reading those sentences brought a gentle smile. They realized something they had overlooked for years. Honesty doesn't require perfection. It requires humility. Because your heart needs this right now, because authentic conversations matter more than flawless ones. As the afternoon slowly turned into evening, golden sunlight stretched across the lake. Children packed away their toys. Families folded picnic blankets. The breeze became cooler. The park gradually grew quieter. Sitting beneath the old oak tree, they reflected on the title of this story. Your soulmate needs to talk to you immediately. Something big just happened? At first glance, it sounded dramatic. Like an urgent message. Like unexpected news. But now they understood its deeper meaning. The biggest event wasn't an emergency. It wasn't a prediction. It wasn't a mysterious sign. The biggest event was an inner transformation. Someone had finally decided to stop allowing fear to delay important conversations. Someone had chosen honesty over avoidance. Someone had realized that expressing gratitude today is better than regretting silence tomorrow. Because your heart needs this right now, because the most meaningful breakthroughs begin inside the heart. As sunset painted the sky with shades of gold, orange, and violet, they quietly whispered a promise to themselves. Tomorrow I will encourage more than I criticize. Tomorrow I will ask instead of assuming. Tomorrow I will express gratitude while I still have the chance. Tomorrow I will apologize without letting pride delay me. Tomorrow I will choose compassion before judgment. Each promise felt like another step toward becoming the person they truly hoped to be. Not perfect. Simply wiser. Kinder. More present. Because your heart needs this right now, because every small decision quietly shapes the future. That evening they returned home. The room felt peaceful. Outside, the stars slowly appeared across the dark sky. They opened the notebook one final time before bed. Across a fresh page they carefully wrote, "The conversation I thought I needed to have with someone else first began within my own heart. Today I learned that honesty creates freedom. Patience builds trust. Gratitude strengthens relationships. Kindness changes ordinary days into meaningful memories." They paused before writing one final reflection. If tomorrow brings difficult conversations, I will meet them with humility. If tomorrow brings unexpected opportunities, I will meet them with gratitude. If tomorrow simply brings another ordinary sunrise, I will still choose compassion, because every act of kindness becomes part of the person I am becoming. They gently closed the notebook. Outside, countless stars filled the peaceful night sky. Tomorrow remained unwritten. New conversations would begin. New opportunities would appear. New lessons would quietly unfold. And for the first time in a very long while, they weren't waiting for life to change before changing themselves. They had already begun. One honest conversation. One grateful heart. One ordinary day at a time. Don't skip. Listen carefully. Author's note: this is a fictional, inspirational story created for entertainment and reflection. It does not claim that a real soulmate is trying to contact you or that these events are happening in real life. It encourages honest communication, emotional growth, gratitude, forgiveness, and hope. And listen to this. Several days had quietly passed since that life-changing realization. The morning still arrived wrapped in golden sunlight. The birds still welcomed the dawn with cheerful songs. The neighborhood still awakened with familiar routines. Children hurried toward school. Neighbors waved across quiet streets. The local cafe filled with the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Everything looked exactly the same. Yet everything felt different. Because something inside had changed. The fear that once whispered, "Wait a little longer," had become quieter. The courage that once seemed impossible had quietly grown stronger. Not through one dramatic event, but through countless ordinary choices. Because your heart needs this right now, because lasting transformation is built one faithful decision at a time. That morning, they no longer reached for distractions the moment they woke. Instead, they opened the curtains and watched the sunrise. Soft pink clouds slowly turned golden. The breeze gently moved through the trees. For several peaceful minutes they simply breathed. They realized something they had overlooked for years. Life had never stopped offering beautiful moments. They had simply been too distracted to notice them. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude often begins when we slow down enough to truly see the life already around us. After breakfast, they picked up the familiar notebook. The cover had become worn from daily use. Its pages contained questions from difficult seasons. Lessons learned through mistakes. Promises written with hope. Turning through those pages felt like meeting different versions of themselves. One page reflected uncertainty. Another reflected regret. Another reflected courage. Instead of feeling embarrassed by earlier entries, they smiled. Growth leaves evidence. And this notebook held proof that healing had been happening quietly all along. Because your heart needs this right now, because becoming wiser is more important than pretending you were always wise. Later that morning they returned to the familiar park. The towering oak tree welcomed another peaceful day. Its leaves shimmered beneath the gentle breeze. The lake reflected the brilliant blue sky. Families spread blankets beneath the trees. Joggers smiled as they passed. An elderly couple slowly walked hand in hand along the lakeside path. Everything invited stillness. They found their favorite wooden bench and quietly sat down. Instead of searching for answers, they simply observed life. Because your heart needs this right now, because peace often arrives when we stop demanding answers and begin appreciating the present. Nearby, a young boy carefully built a small tower from smooth stones beside the lake. Every few minutes the tower collapsed. Each time he quietly started again. His mother never rushed him. She simply smiled. "You're learning balance," she said. "Every attempt teaches your hands something new." Those words lingered. Relationships are much the same. Trust is built patiently. Understanding grows gradually. Forgiveness requires practice. Every difficult conversation teaches something valuable. Because your heart needs this right now, because strong relationships are created through patient learning rather than instant perfection. As they continued walking through the park, they noticed a gardener planting tiny flower seedlings. The flowers looked fragile, almost insignificant. Yet the gardener treated each one with incredible care. Curious, they asked, "Do you really believe they'll all bloom?" The gardener smiled warmly. "My job isn't to force them to bloom. My job is to keep caring for them." Those simple words settled deeply into their heart. Healthy relationships cannot be forced. Respect grows through consistency. Trust grows through honesty. Love grows through everyday acts of kindness. Because your heart needs this right now, because the strongest connections are nurtured with patience rather than pressure. The afternoon quietly unfolded. Golden sunlight reflected across the peaceful lake. Nearby, a young musician softly played an old guitar. Only a few people stopped to listen. Yet every note was played with care. Watching him reminded your soulmate that sincerity isn't measured by applause. The most meaningful actions are often the quiet ones. Helping someone. Encouraging someone. Listening without interruption. Expressing gratitude. Offering forgiveness. Many of life's greatest acts happen without recognition. Because your heart needs this right now, because genuine character is revealed through quiet consistency. Returning to the familiar bench, they opened the notebook once more. Today's page filled quickly. Today I understand that fear grows when conversations are avoided. Hope grows when conversations begin. I cannot control every outcome. But I can control whether I choose honesty. That choice belongs to me. Reading those words brought unexpected freedom. For so long they believed courage meant never feeling afraid. Now they understood something different. Courage means moving forward with kindness even when uncertainty remains. Because your heart needs this right now, because bravery is choosing what is right even when it feels uncomfortable. Later that afternoon they noticed two lifelong friends sitting beneath another tree. They laughed easily together. Occasionally they disagreed. Yet every disagreement ended with another smile. Watching them reminded your soulmate that healthy relationships aren't free from differences. They're strengthened by respectful conversations. By listening. By choosing understanding over winning arguments. By protecting the relationship more than personal pride. That realization quietly changed their perspective forever. Because your heart needs this right now, because respect is often more valuable than being right. As sunset slowly painted the sky with shades of gold, orange, pink, and violet, they walked beside the lake one final time. Gentle ripples moved across the water. Birds returned to their nests. Children waved goodbye to new friends. The peaceful park slowly settled into evening silence. Standing there, they reflected on the title. Your soulmate needs to talk to you immediately. Something big just happened. At first it had sounded dramatic. Urgent. Mysterious. Now they smiled. The big thing had never been an extraordinary event. It was something much quieter. Someone had finally decided to stop allowing fear to write the story. Someone had chosen honesty instead of silence. Someone had decided that appreciation should never remain unspoken. That quiet decision changed everything. Because your heart needs this right now, because the greatest breakthroughs usually begin inside the heart. Returning home after sunset, they placed the notebook beside the window. Outside, stars slowly filled the night sky. The room felt wonderfully peaceful. Turning to a fresh page, they carefully wrote, "Tomorrow I will continue choosing kindness. Tomorrow I will continue choosing honesty. Tomorrow I will continue listening before judging. Tomorrow I will continue expressing gratitude. Tomorrow I will continue becoming the person I hope to be." Each promise felt less like a goal and more like a way of life. Not something to accomplish once. Something to practice every day. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaningful lives are shaped through faithful daily habits. Before closing the notebook, they wrote one final reflection. I once believed that life would change when someone else finally understood me. Today I understand something far more important. Life began changing the moment I chose to understand myself honestly, treat others with compassion, and stop waiting for perfect circumstances before expressing kindness. Every conversation rooted in respect, every apology offered sincerely, every moment of gratitude shared freely becomes another step toward the person I hope to become. They gently closed the notebook. Outside, countless stars shimmered across the peaceful night sky. Tomorrow remained unwritten. New opportunities would appear. New conversations would begin. New lessons would quietly unfold. And for the first time in many seasons, they no longer feared the future. Because they had discovered that hope isn't built by predicting tomorrow. It is built by choosing honesty, patience, gratitude, and compassion today. Don't skip. Listen carefully. Author's note: this is a fictional, inspirational story written for entertainment and reflection. It does not claim that a real soulmate is trying to contact you or that the events described are happening in real life. Its purpose is to encourage honest communication, emotional growth, forgiveness, gratitude, and hope. And listen to this. The final morning of the journey arrived quietly. There were no flashing signs. No dramatic surprises. No mysterious voices in the night. Instead, dawn unfolded gently across the horizon, painting the sky with soft shades of gold, pink, and pale blue. A cool breeze slipped through the open window. Birds welcomed the sunrise with cheerful songs. The neighborhood slowly awakened. Someone unlocked the door to a neighborhood bakery. A child laughed while chasing a butterfly across a nearby garden. An elderly couple walked hand in hand beneath the trees. Everything appeared wonderfully ordinary. Yet inside, something extraordinary had finally settled. The restless search for certainty had been replaced with quiet confidence. Not because every question had been answered. Not because every dream had already come true. But because they had discovered that peace is not found in knowing the future. Peace is found in choosing how to live today. Because your heart needs this right now, because every day gives us another opportunity to become a little kinder, wiser, and more grateful than the day before. That morning they prepared breakfast more slowly than usual. Instead of rushing through another busy schedule, they allowed themselves to enjoy simple moments. The warmth of a fresh cup of tea. The sound of rainwater dripping gently from tree branches after an overnight shower. The sunlight reflecting across the kitchen floor. These small details suddenly seemed important. For years they had searched for extraordinary signs while overlooking ordinary blessings. Now they understood something different. A meaningful life is often built from simple moments appreciated fully. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude transforms ordinary mornings into extraordinary memories. After breakfast they picked up the familiar notebook one final time. The cover had become worn from weeks of reflection. Its pages carried the story of an entire journey. The first pages contained uncertainty. The middle pages held difficult questions. Later chapters were filled with quiet promises. Now only one blank page remained. They gently smiled. This notebook had never predicted the future. It had simply documented the gradual transformation of one heart. Because your heart needs this right now, because growth is often easier to recognize when we pause and look back at how far we've come. Later that morning they returned to the familiar park. The towering oak tree still stood proudly beside the lake. Its branches danced gently in the breeze. Children laughed while playing tag across the grass. Neighbors greeted one another warmly. Families enjoyed picnics beneath the shade. Nothing unusual happened. Yet everything seemed filled with quiet meaning. As they walked beside the peaceful lake, they noticed how calm the water had become. Only gentle ripples moved across its surface. Watching those ripples reminded them of conversations. Every conversation creates movement. Kind words encourage. Patient words comfort. Honest words build trust. Forgiving words begin healing. Harsh words leave lasting marks. Silence also creates ripples. Sometimes the words left unsaid remain in someone's heart longer than the words we actually speak. Because your heart needs this right now, because every conversation is an opportunity to build understanding instead of distance. Nearby, they noticed an elderly carpenter repairing an old wooden bench. Some boards were cracked. The paint had faded. Many people might have thrown it away. Instead, the carpenter carefully sanded each rough edge before replacing damaged pieces one by one. Curious, they asked. Why spend so much time repairing something so old? The carpenter smiled kindly. Because some things become more valuable after they've been restored. Those simple words stayed with them. Relationships often follow the same pattern. Misunderstandings happen. Mistakes happen. Disappointments happen. Yet patience, forgiveness, honest conversations, and consistent kindness can restore trust more beautifully than before. Because your heart needs this right now, because healing often begins when people choose restoration instead of giving up. The afternoon passed peacefully. Children helped one another fly colorful kites. An elderly woman shared homemade cookies with her neighbors. A young father patiently taught his son how to ride a bicycle. Every failed attempt became another reason to encourage instead of criticize. Watching these simple scenes reminded your soulmate that love is rarely demonstrated through dramatic speeches. It reveals itself through everyday patience. Helping. Listening. Encouraging. Showing up. Remaining present. Because your heart needs this right now, because the strongest relationships are built through ordinary acts of love repeated consistently. Eventually they returned to the familiar bench beneath the old oak tree. The notebook rested quietly in their hands. For several moments they simply looked across the peaceful lake. The breeze carried the gentle sound of birds returning to their nests. The sunlight slowly shifted toward evening. Then they opened the notebook to its final blank page. This time there were no unanswered questions. Only gratitude. Only wisdom. Only quiet hope. Slowly they began writing. Today I finally understand that truth is not something to fear. Truth spoken with kindness creates freedom. Gratitude strengthens every relationship. Forgiveness lightens every burden. Listening is one of the greatest expressions of love. Patience protects trust. Compassion changes lives. Reading those simple sentences filled their heart with peace. Not excitement. Not relief alone. But deep, lasting peace. Because your heart needs this right now, because living according to values brings a kind of confidence that circumstances cannot provide. As the afternoon gradually became evening, another realization quietly appeared. The title of this story had always suggested that something enormous had happened. At first they imagined dramatic news. A shocking confession. An unexpected message. A mysterious sign. Instead, the biggest event turned out to be something much quieter. Someone had decided to stop waiting. To stop allowing fear to postpone important conversations. To stop assuming people already knew how much they mattered. To stop believing that tomorrow would always offer another chance. That quiet decision became the true turning point. Because your heart needs this right now, because some of life's greatest changes begin with one courageous decision made in silence. The golden sunset slowly painted the sky with brilliant shades of orange, pink, violet, and gold. Families gathered their belongings. Children waved goodbye to new friends. The peaceful park gradually became quiet once again. Standing beside the lake, they whispered a promise. From this day forward, I will express appreciation while I have the opportunity. I will choose understanding before judgment. I will ask instead of assuming. I will forgive more quickly. I will protect trust through honesty. I will never underestimate the importance of ordinary kindness. Those promises didn't guarantee an easy future. But they guaranteed something even more valuable. A meaningful direction. Because your heart needs this right now, because the future is shaped by the habits we practice today. That evening they returned home. The room felt peaceful. Outside, stars slowly appeared across the night sky. They placed the notebook on the table. For several quiet moments they simply rested their hand upon it. Then they opened it one final time. Across the final page they carefully wrote, "If this journey has taught me anything, it is this. Never assume someone already knows how much they matter. Tell them. Never wait for perfect timing to offer kindness. Offer it today. Never let pride become louder than love. Choose humility. Never believe that ordinary moments are unimportant. One conversation, one apology, one act of gratitude, one moment of compassion can quietly change an entire life." They paused before writing one final paragraph. Whether tomorrow brings familiar faces, unexpected opportunities, new beginnings, or simply another peaceful sunrise, I want to meet every day with honesty, patience, gratitude, forgiveness, humility, and hope. Those choices may seem small, but together they create the strongest foundation any relationship could ever have. They gently closed the notebook. The journey had reached its final page. Outside, countless stars filled the quiet sky. Tomorrow remained unwritten. New conversations would begin. New opportunities would appear. New lessons would quietly unfold. And for the first time in a very long while, they no longer feared whatever tomorrow might bring. Because they had discovered the greatest truth of all. The most important conversation was never about predicting the future. It was about becoming someone who speaks with kindness, listens with empathy, forgives with grace, appreciates the present, and chooses love over fear every single day. The room became still. The stars continued shining. And with a peaceful heart, they turned off the light, knowing that the greatest chapter of their story was not the one they had finished writing. It was the one they would continue living, one honest conversation, one act of compassion, and one ordinary day at a time.